The views expressed on Teachavision are those of the interviewee and interviewer and do not represent Screenless Allies as a whole.
Hello there, and welcome to episode number 38 of Teachavision, where everyone has a different vision of learning. This is Jose Briseño, and on part 3 of the interview with Mr. Christopher Tabb, Orientation and Mobility Specialist from Austin, Texas, we talk about the evolution of orientation and mobility over the years, and how does this also incorporate technology. We do revisit some pieces of technology we've talked about, including the Victor Reader Trek, which, by the way, for those of you that are listening on your Victor Reader, whether it's a Victor Reader Stream or whether it's a Victor Reader Trek, thank you so much for including Teachavision in your Victor Reader. For those of you that don't know what that is, it is a digital talking book player, which basically means it reads special books for the blind, but you can also listen to podcasts on this device. So for those Victor users, thank you very much for including us on your little pocket player. And now, without any further ado, today's episode right here on Teachavision by Screenless Allies. But first, it's time for your Teachavision Tech Tip, where we make your technology life a little bit easier by giving you a hint or tip on how to use it. Whether it's computers, whether it's mobile devices, we have it all right here on the Teachavision Tech Tip on Teachavision by Screenless Allies. In this tip, we're going to talk to you about the editor of the Chameleon 20. To get to the editor, you press the letter E from the main menu, and in there you'll find a menu with a few options. You have Create File, Open File, Recently Saved if you've saved any files in the past, and Editor Settings. To create a file, you can just press C or navigate to create a file. At this point, you'll get to the top of your document and you can type anything you wish. Once you're done, press space with S.234 to save your document. Otherwise, you can press space with E to exit the editor. It will ask you to save open file. You can press Y for yes or N for no. If you hit N for no, you're taken back to the editor menu. The editor has a context menu with some basic commands such as editing commands like copy, paste, and find and replace, and to save your document. To access this context menu, you can press space with M as in Mary from inside the document. All of the Chameleon's built-in applications have said menu with different features depending on the application you are using. We hope this Teachavision Tech Tip was helpful to you. And now, on with the show. How has the concepts of O&M evolved since you began teaching till the present day?
There are some things that have been around even before the field of O&M became officially the field of O&M. So when we think about people traveling around, having something in front of you to get there before you get to it, technically, it's just a stick that you could pick up off the ground and sweep back and forth in front of you. Nowadays, we've developed it to a tool that is, it's slender, it's lightweight, it's durable, it's flexible. So we have the white canes of today have evolved into being graphite or hybrid materials, fiberglass with different types of tips, like a ceramic tip or a metal glide tip or a roller tip. So those types of things have changed, but the basic idea of having something in front of you to preview your travel hasn't changed a bit. In terms of something like a guide dog, there have for centuries, humans and dogs have worked together side by side in different ways. The way that we use a harness nowadays has certainly adapted and evolved from a basic handle on that harness to now there's different ways of shaping the harness for different activities, all sorts of different systems that people can use to allow them to work efficiently with dogs, even with an individual, a human, having multiple disabilities to be able to work collaboratively with the dog. So lots of changes that have happened over the, let's just say, the last 100 years in our kind of a more modern world. In terms of what happens day to day now, in the last couple of decades, we've had different kinds of tips, different materials used for canes. The older canes primarily were made of aluminum. The canes would get stuck a lot, especially the folding
story
canes.
of my life.
Now we have different designs that allow us to open those canes much easier. It used to be that we didn't want to, quote unquote, drop our canes open because the little sections would bounce together, cause nicks that would cut the cord, and then your cane would fall apart.
Yep. Been there, done that.
Today, we open our canes in a much different manner. So lots of things have changed just in the last couple of decades. New types of tips, like there's a tip that came out relatively recently called the Dakota Disc, which is almost like a small flying saucer that goes on the end of your cane, but it floats. Cool. It was designed for snow, but it also works in sand, parks with tall grass and other types of challenges. There's a new tip that came out of Australia. I think it's called the OmniSense tip that rolls in all directions. We have a ceramic tip that wears, I haven't seen it wear out yet. It's very durable, has great sound quality and tactile information that comes from the tip to the grip. So
that's what I use, the ceramic. I love the ceramic. It's
people have continued to innovate, even though it's just a cane, even though it's just that basic quote unquote stick. People have continued to innovate it to make it more adaptable to different environments, to make it more durable, to make it more sensitive to provide information.
Oh, for sure. And they even have different colors of canes, you guys. Like indeed. I was looking at, actually quick story. When I was in high school, way back 10 years ago, literally 10 years ago, I was literally told that I am required to go to prom by a lot of people because I did not want to go to prom. It went to the point where my O&M at the time, he literally came up and said, "Buddy, I got a cane for you." And I'm going, "I already have a cane, sir. Why do I need another one? You know, I already got like 2 spares." And he said, "No, this one's going to fit your clothing. It's black." And I'm going, "What? They actually have black canes like that? That's awesome." So I took a black cane to prom. You know, it was black and white.
And so you can order canes in lots of different colors. What's important to know is what works best for safety. And it's still, in the United States, we have the white cane laws, which basically the cane should be predominantly, or at least 51% white or silver in color. The research has shown that cars actually respond better for yielding to a pedestrian when the pedestrian is holding a white cane rather than a green cane, a blue cane, a black cane.
Right.
Technically, they do the same thing. They watch for what's going to be coming up in your next step. They preview your travel path. But drivers who are used to using colors for different information respond better to a white cane than they do to other colors. In some countries, different colors represent different things. Yellow might represent a person with low vision, where white might represent a person who's totally blind. In some places, certain bands of color toward the top of the cane might indicate that you have a dual sensory loss, that you are deafblind. In the United States, canes are primarily either all white or white with a red end or a contrasting color. There are some companies like Ambutech who have begun producing canes with a little bit of flair. They're still a white cane, but they might have a green handle or an orange handle or a blue handle with the different sections where the sections come together. There is a color band there as well. So they have a little bit of personality to them, but they are still primarily a white cane.
Right. And that's what I was trying to explain was that, you know, it's evolved to where we have different colors that people can, you know, take if they want to go outside and get dressed up nicely, you know, things like that. I mean, it's kind of like your car. Yeah. You know, I think that's the kind of the philosophy they're trying to do of kind of like your car. Your car needs, you know, they have different colors and, you know, maybe your cane should too. Keeping the white, of course, at the bottom.
Yes. So it's nice when people can express their personality and their character through the things that they're using. It gives a little more freedom.
For sure, for sure. Now, we've definitely covered the cane. Now, let's talk about technology. How has that evolved? Now, obviously, I'll be honest, that is a whole different, like, that could be a whole different interview in itself because, especially in my experiences, because the technology I had, you know, I didn't even know about, you know, the GPS units until I was in middle school. And then I got up to the Trekker Breeze, and then I learned about the old Trekker and Maestro, believe it or not, from Chris himself. He actually got to show me one. It didn't work, but I got to see one, you know, the whole big thing, and I'm going, wow, that is huge.
It was a lot of buttons.
Yes, sir. So, in general, what was the evolution of the technology used in O&M?
There were some early devices. We'll start with something that nowadays we have something called the Sunu band, which is a sonic device that you wear on your wrist. The wrist strap is the same as a watch wrist strap, but it has a sonic sensor on the end that can relay information about what's out in front of you at like a head level that your cane wouldn't find. Years ago, we used to have something called a MOWAT sensor, which was the same kind of a handheld device. You didn't wear it on your wrist. It was more like carrying around a small box in your hand. more cumbersome. So there's been advances there in terms of things like a GPS. GPS used to be so big you had to carry it around in a backpack, a separate backpack. And
geez.
Nowadays, we can have it on our watch. We can have it on our phone. It's much more of a feature than it is its own standalone device. There are some things that are standalone devices, like the Victor Reader Trek, but even that is a multi-purpose device now. What was the Trekker became the Trekker Breeze, is now paired with the Victor Reader Stream into the Victor Reader Trek. So in addition to being an orientation device, it's also a digital media player that can be a personal recorder, can provide you with lots of different material, can tune into the Wi-Fi, can tune into the internet, all in one device. So our technology keeps reinventing itself and becoming more in anything we're going to hold in our hand or keep in our pocket.
For sure. Like I said, I remember the good old Sendero GPS days from, way back in back when Sendero Group was around. For those that are also totally blind that might remember, now it's no longer around. It's now been acquired by IRA, and then later was moved to Good Maps. Sendero is like no more at this point. But back then I remember you had to download maps onto an SD card, and then you had to go in and make sure that all the receiver was connected correctly. Back in the day I had my old Breno Classic, so serially connected. So you had like 3 devices on your neck at all times. And I remember that. From that to Bluetooth receivers, and now, like you said, on our phone with Maps or Google Maps or whatever. You might not get, as much information as a assistive GPS device like the Victor Reader Trek or the Trekker Breeze or the old Breno GPS days, but it does the job well in that situation. So it's pretty nifty, man. I'll tell you, technology has definitely increased so much in that regard, which is pretty awesome. Out of all the technology, what has stuck out for you?
Well, some of this is going to go into, I know we talked about that there will be a future discussion. And so some of this goes into future discussion because some of the things that I've only heard about that I haven't put my hands on yet, I'm excited to try. Some of the things that are happening now are, especially in our remote world, we're learning ways to allow not being present and having experiences as though we were present. So a virtual experience. Presently, that might be that using some GPS apps, I can explore areas I'm not presently at to know what's around. So as people who are visual use Google Map or Google Street View to zoom into an area, we can use some GPS apps to take us to a place, and we can hear as we travel around the block what things are nearby, points of interest, intersecting streets, different features of the environment. We can also do some of that by having someone use a recording on a binaural recording device so that basically we have a stereo sound. It feels like we're actually in that environment. We can also pair that with some tactile information, lots of different ways that we can bring that about. I've never used a heads-up display other than for what's immediately with me, but now we're getting to the point where we can use augmented reality or like an Oculus system to actually feel as though we are present in different environments. So for those with low vision, they could have visual information displayed. For those who are non-visual, we have that basically surround sound to be able to put ourselves in that environment. We can also provide some feedback through holding something in our hand to have some vibration, whether that's our phone with a vibration pattern or holding something like a cane that's been paired with another technology so that that grip on the cane is vibrating. Lots of things that will be able to provide us with a sense of being somewhere without actually being there. So if, let's say, you were going to explore a new environment that you were going to be visiting, you could take a preview of that block by feeling as though you were walking around it without actually having to be there.
Oh, wow. It's kind of like the old GPS virtual mode, but like on a lot of drugs at this point.
Well, yes, just pumping up that the realism of being in that virtual environment.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Teachavision by Screenless Allies. Did you enjoy what you heard? We encourage you to look back at our past podcast episodes, which are equally as awesome as this one. If you want to know more information about Screenless Allies, we encourage you to visit our website at www.screenlessallies.com. That is SCREENLESSALLIES.com. All one word. Want to keep up with our happenings? Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Screenless Allies official, all one word. Want to get in contact with us for any reason whatsoever? Email us info@screenlessallies.com. Also, please share with your friends and others that might find Screenless Allies beneficial and fun. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.